Alrighty. Well, first and foremost, this is the Mobile DI Mini C-arm from OrthoScan. In order to operate the device, it just needs to be plugged into the wall. But once it's plugged in, all you need to do is tap this green button right here. I'll just position it just like so. But tap this green button right here. No need to hold it down. It'll take about a minute to warm up. But while it's warming up, I'll go over some of the outside features of the device. So let me just put this down real quick. So first, you got your 24-inch LCD touchscreen monitor. You've got the Mobile DI Mini C-arm imaging unit itself here, which is housed on the accessory cart. You've got wheels that lock into place. Down is for mobile, up is for mobile, down is to lock it into place. You've got both the monitor and the unit sit on a counterbalance system. So what that means is you can apply a little pressure, the monitor will go down, it'll actually swivel to the other side as well, so you can put it on this side. Same thing here, so you can raise it up. Make sure it sits, it'll sit flush, like you can get some unorthodox views on it, just like that. Now you've got your focal point laser up top here. So hold that down till it blinks at you. Now you know the focal point laser is on as long as the device is on. In order to turn it off, just go ahead, tap that focal point laser, it'll turn it off. But as long as you hold it down and it blinks at you, it's just gonna align anatomy on the center of the flat detector.
Okay.
I like to use it, some people don't, completely preference. Now, I'll get into some of the ventral controls here, and then I'm gonna go into the no-nos of the device as well, before I get into the interface or anything like that. So, you got tag, which I'll explain here in a little bit later in my presentation. You can hit save or print. So if we hit save, we'll save the main image that was just took. We can't print anything, but if we wanted to, we could print from your PACS database to like a regular printer. If we had an OrthoScan printer, like a compatible one, we could just hit print and it'll print off the printer. Next, you got these two arrows, which will rotate the main image that you just took. 10-degree rotations. You can tap to take an x-ray with the x-ray button, or you can hold as long as for fluoro. Yep. Just hold it down for the full fluoroscopic loop, and when you release, it'll and it'll play back. It'll end the fluoroscopic loop. You can manually adjust the kilovolts here, but this device automatically adjusts to the density of the anatomy. And I'll show you kind of how to do that, or how this device essentially operates in order to do that. Just gonna get this out of the way here. But realistically, I'm just gonna raise this down here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go cross-reference the touchscreen functions with the keyboard functions here. So I'm gonna start on the top, I'm gonna wrap all the way around, and then I'm gonna end at boost. Before I get into the interface, a couple no-nos. They don't recommend any extension cords or power bricks. They'd recommend it be directly plugged into the wall. But research and development just came out with, just make sure it's a medical grade. If you're using an extension cord or a power brick, make sure it's medical grade. Then you should be good. Usually it's a little bit of a thicker cord. It could be different colors, of course, but it's usually a 3-prong that plugs into the wall. So other than that, we're not saving patient health information to a USB because we'll be sending it directly to DICOM, but I do think it's good for you to know. No SanDisk USBs. There's a USB port right here. So we could save the patients to the USB and then bring it to the desktop and then upload those patients and download them to the graph. Let's say our PACS database is down That's a secondary saving imaging option. From there, you've got 3 main home screen options when the device is turned on. So scheduled cases, we hit scheduled cases. We could hit update work list, and we'll wait just a second. So what we need to figure out here is, do we need patients to be ordered to be imaged in order for them to show up on the work list?
It would probably have to be.
Okay. So when we order the patients to be imaged, just like radiology, to radiology, they'll end up here.
Populate.
Yep, and we can just double tap and begin imaging because their information's already in there, right? So I recommend primarily going when a patient walks in, they're ordered to be imaged. We'll hit update work list here. Wait just a second for it to populate. Double tap on that patient, begin imaging.
If we don't order the exam and you have to manually do it when the patient's here.
Yep. Then we'll go to patient information and manually enter it in, and then begin imaging.
Okay.
Yep. Which I'll get to here after the recall button. But recall, this isn't going to be primarily relevant to us right now because we'll be sending images to the DICOM database and the patient's graph where everything will be saved, right? So the recall screen is actually the device's internal hard drive. So if we're going to save any images to the device, this is where they'll be. It saves 26,000 images or 14.4 minutes of fluoroscopy. So, I mean, it's a lot you can store on here. I can't recommend it be a primary storage database for you if you were to save any images on here. So, if you're doing 30 patients a week, I'd go in here and start, deleting the patients, right? So it doesn't fill up. But again, we're in best case scenario, so we're not saving anything to the device because everything will be sent to DICOM database. And I'll show you how to do that too. Really easy. But again, if a patient walks in or they didn't order the patient to be imaged, no problem. Come on in here. Fill in the applicable fields, so the last name, first name, middle name. You can distinguish your patient ID, sex of the individual, their birth date, the physician that's imaging them, or the staff member, a session, procedure, any additional comments you want to leave.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit test and then last name or first name, just one. Keep in mind the patient ID is the patient's MRN number.
Okay.
So I highly recommend double checking the MRN number so that it uploads straight to the graph. Keep that in mind. So go ahead and hit save. Now we're in the live imaging screen. We can do a lot from here. I'm just going to take a couple quick test images, if you don't mind. Bring this up here. I'm going to grab my phantom hand and then grab my foot pedal, and I can use this as a hand pedal as well. But a couple things to keep in mind with our devices. You want the anatomy as closest to the flat detector as possible and as still as possible. We utilize a LAR principle as low as reasonably achievable. So if you're seeing what you're able to see, then by all means, but I recommend holding the foot pedal down for a good 3 seconds in order for the device to adjust to the density of the anatomy. So you'll see on the 3rd second, it'll kind of crispen up for you, or in that second, I guess you could say. So watch 1, 2, 3. Just kind of crispens up for you because it's adjusting to the density. 1, 2, 3. You get a distal radius and ulna in here. 1, 2, 3. Boom. So we got 3 quality static images. I'll show you a fluoroscopic loop here in a second too. But again, I'm just going to start right here. So escape is just a general back button, brings you to the previous screen. Recall, same as that middle home screen function, just the internal hard drive of the device. If we're in a live patient case, we can't hit recall and bring up all saved patients. But if we're in any other screen, we could bring up recall and see what we saved to the device.
Like there's saved images in that exam?
Yeah, if there's any saved images on the device. Yep. Patient information. Now this could be beneficial. It's looks like a little person, like literally. Go ahead and tap that little person. We can edit that patient's information mid-case. Get a birthday wrong, sex of the individual wrong, what have you. Go ahead and update that. Excuse me, and it'll update on the patient cases file. Next you got, it looks like a stack of files here. It's our save icon. This is to save this main image to the internal hard drive of this device. To unsave, go ahead and hit save again. It'll unsave it. We won't even need to utilize that function, by the way.
Okay.
Yep.
Do all the images send that you take through here
Yep.
to MedStrat?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, directly. We did some test images this morning,
Okay.
so we should be good. And I'll definitely show you how to do that because that's very important. Next is print. We don't have a compatible printer, but if we did, we could hit print. Now this is a very important function as well. DVR. So if we hit DVR, Cine DVR enabled, this is going to record fluoroscopy and it's going to play on a continuous loop for us. So, for example, I'll just do a quick little motion study for us. You want to hold the foot pedal down for the duration of the fluoroscopic loop. So if we were to just go here with it, we can go here and then down, for example. So now it's just going to play on this continuous loop for us, right? So if we do not hit DVR, we can still utilize live fluoro. So watch this. I mean, we could navigate to a specific joint space, but it's just going to capture that last frame of the image. So just keep in mind, in order to record fluoroscopy, DVR needs to be enabled. However you manipulate the image, however you filter the image, it will send to PACS that way too. So I'm just going to disable DVR. You have case review, and it looks like this right here. Case review. Now this is important too. So if we go tap case review, it's going to bring up a thumbnail version of this patient's case. So let's say everything we took for this patient, we'd like to send to DICOM or your PACS database. We can hit select all. We can manually select your desired images, for example. But in order to send to DICOM, all we need to do is tap DICOM. We're online. We're good to go. Hit send. It'll say 1 out of 1. Leave. Now that image has been sent, right? You'll see this though. There's one additional image, which is a dose summary report. That's going to be sent with every single patient case. So we sent one image, you'll have an additional image. So just keep in mind, you'll have an additional image, which is a dose summary report. Do not delete that. I have had an account do that, and for auditing purposes, you need to keep that. So just keep that in mind. But in order to get back to the live imaging screen, just hit back. We've got a save all button. So we can hit save all enabled. We have just saved everything that we've done for this patient's case to the internal hard drive of the device. Not going to need to, but just in case our PACS system is down, or we want to utilize a USB for like any off-site imaging to bring a USB to see images, that's a good little tool to use. From there, this is kind of the fun stuff. This is where the cool stuff begins. Edge on over. It's our filters. It's our manipulations. First, we've got this bone icon. It's called Edge, and it's right here. So if you focus on the image, we can put it in high. It's going to enhance the edges of the bones. It's going to highlight the edges of the bones, help you spot things you probably wouldn't normally spot. If it's off, it's blurry, right?
Yeah.
Low. It sits in low because it's a great middle ground between static imaging and fluoroscopy. So if we're going to take a fluoroscopic loop and we have it in high, watch when I hit DVR, which we're essentially telling the device I want to take a fluoroscopic loop, it'll sit it back down into low because it knows it's not going to be an optimal fluoroscopic loop if this is in high. So that's probably the only function that you'll need in order to just keep in mind, but it does it for you anyways. So I'm going to put it back into low. Next we got still/motion, which is this auto icon right here. I wouldn't recommend touching it because if you do, you're just telling the device I want to perform a fluoroscopic loop. Still, I like to take a static image, but in the auto, it'll recognize between the two after that third or fourth second.
Okay.
Yep, of holding the foot pedal down, it'll just start doing 30 frames per second, continuous fluoroscopy for you. Next we've got negate. I find this really beneficial as well.
Mm-hmm.
It reverses the polarity of the image and gives you a traditional film
X-ray.
look. Yep. And then you could even, it's great in conjunction with edge, so put it in high. And then this is the brightness and the contrast here. So you can really dive into those like hairline fractures, things of that nature. So yeah, just help you to spot things you wouldn't normally see. I'm just gonna put it all back to its default setting. You can flip the image too, just flips the image like so. Flips the anatomy. You got your zoom icon here, so you can tap zoom, navigate with these keys to a specific joint space, for example. Hit it again, you can navigate with these keys, but if you hit it a third time, it'll zoom out of that specific space.
Okay.
Go ahead and double tap the image, it brings it right back to the center. But instead, I don't utilize the keyboard for zoom.
Okay.
I just pan in and out with my fingers just like
Yeah.
this. You have better degrees, like, you only got 2 or 3 options there, right? But with this, you can kind of get really precise with it. Next is the brightness and contrast. So you got these white buttons. It's the same as that scroll bar here. So you can bright is bright, dark is dark, and then the squiggly right here, the auto, just brings it back to 50%. Easy enough. Now, I've only seen this a couple times, and it's been on, one was on accident, and one's been in a cadaver lab setting. Total fluoro time, if this reaches 5 minutes for a specific patient, the device will sound an alarm, just letting you know this is probably a little bit more fluoro than we see for one single patient in a clinical setting.
Right.
No problem if so. They use this device for in-office procedures too. So if they need to shut up the device, hit silence alarm, which is right here, and it'll quiet the device so it doesn't beep every time you take a fluoroscopic loop or an image. This space is tag 1, this space is tag 2. So what we can do is when we take an image, we can lock an image in place. And the same with the tag 2 space, right? Lock that image into place. The common question I get is, why in the heck would we need this?
AP lateral to compare.
Yep, exactly. We'd have a 360-degree view, AP lateral and oblique right on one screen, so we got a 360-degree view of anatomy. So we can unlock it by just tapping the tag button again, and it'll perform its regular cycling of images. We can annotate the image too, hitting left, L for left, R for right.
For every image or just the whole
Just for every image.
Okay.
Yep. Because it'll label that piece of left anatomy or right anatomy. Now when we'll go right over here to the rotate image, we can rotate it 10 degrees here or let it fly essentially if we wanted to. Double tap. Personally, I like to just have my finger on the outside frame of the image. So you go ahead and just rotate it like so. You can do a little grab and go action so you're not doing circles a lot. Double tap, bring it to its original form. Again, we can manually adjust the KVs here, but it's in auto, and I recommend keeping it there so it can recognize, the density of the anatomy. But again, you can manually adjust it if you want. The only time where we're thinking of like radiation exposure, I guess, or mitigating a ramp up time to get from low KVs to high KVs, the boost button.
Is that like a mag image?
So yeah, you could almost say that it allows the device to reach its maximum KV level of 78 KVs. It's not going to go straight up to it. you know. But if we're sitting at 55 kVs and we don't hit boost, and we're going from a distal finger to a shoulder patient maybe, I recommend hitting the boost button, because it's going to go from 55, and we're telling the device, like, we're going from a less dense piece of anatomy to a very dense piece of anatomy. So hit boost, hold that foot pedal down for 3 seconds, and it'll get up to, you know, the kVs it needs to get up to. You know, other than that, the boost button is just a good function to use for any dense, large individuals. If I see a big individual walk in, an offensive lineman, a bariatric patient, I immediately hit boost, especially if it's a shoulder or a knee.
Okay.
Yep. So, other than that, I'm just going to turn boost off. All we need to do here, essentially, before we leave this patient's case, is go to case review, select our desired images, just like so, tap DICOM, send, make sure you see nothing.
You have to do that separate.
Nope, that goes with it.
Automatically does?
Automatically does. So you only need to hit DICOM.
Okay.
That's it. But again, when you send these images, there'll be one additional image, which is that dose summary report. You can manually send it if you want by sending dose, send dose.
Okay.
But it'll send with it. Now, when we go back, this is our last chance, literally. If we didn't send everything to DICOM, all unsaved images will be lost. Continue. If we didn't save anything to the internal hard drive, if we didn't send anything to DICOM, and we hit OK, it's non-retrievable because it's nowhere, you know.
Gotcha.
So make sure you do that. This is your last chance. Hitting OK. Now we're back into the main home screen. And in order to turn off the device, just go ahead. It's the same way of turning it on. Just go ahead and tap that green button. You want to allow about a minute for it to cool down, but realistically, when this fan turns off in a couple seconds, just like that, just right there, we can unplug the unit and then wheel it to a different exam room, and then plug it in, tap that green button, and begin imaging again. And that's the mobile DI mini CR.
That's nice.
Thank you.
It's very nice.
Yeah.
I like it better